What is up, Serie A fans? This is another edition of Stoppage Time. I'm your host, Cliff. And just to get some of our maintenance out of the way, we are sponsored by the All Juve cast, my phenomenal team, as well as Striped Hearts Apparel. I have my order in. It will be coming very soon, so I'll be rocking that in the next pod. But you see this guy on my left, on my right of the screen. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Nick from Atalanta Passion. And we are going to be talking a lot this weekend, or about from these weekend matches. But Nick, how are you doing?
Cliff, I'm doing really good. Thanks for having me on. And we've talked a lot recently, which is good. It's good to talk to you again and talk some more Calcio.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really great because I've only connected with like one other Atalanta fan, so it's really cool to talk to another one and kind of get your perspective, especially since we had the Juventus Atalanta match from this last weekend. But from the weekend as a whole, very interesting. This is like the weekend of draws. That's what I've noticed. There were a ton of draws from this past weekend. Most notably, we had the Juventus Atalanta one and Inter Napoli. Those are the two big draws. We also had Genoa Sassuolo drew, or Salernitana drew, Empoli Cagliari drew, and then Sassuolo Roma drew. So a lot of draws this weekend. And actually, while I'm on that topic, let me go through some of the um, a quick rundown of all the matches from this weekend. So we had Lazio beating Bologna 3-0. We had Napoli Inter, like I mentioned, 1-1 draw. We had Torino losing to Venezia in a big upset that we're going to talk about in a few minutes, 2-1. And those were Saturday's matches. And then Sunday we had Atalanta Juve ending in 1-1 draw. We had Milan beating Sampdoria 1-0. Empoli Cagliari 1-1. Genoa Salernitana 1-1. Verona, I watched that match, absolutely destroying Udinese. They looked very, very strong. And then Sassuolo Roma drawing. And with the last match on Monday, Spezia losing to Fiorentina 2-1. So I want to get into the first match that I just mentioned before, Venezia Torino. This was a really, really interesting match because it started off really early. The first goal came from Torino. As we kind of expected, we thought that they would be able to beat Venezia. Brecalo hit a very well-placed volley that, Venezia's keeper, it wasn't their usual keeper. I forget who it was, but he was only able to get a hand to it, and it went into the top corner off the deflection off his hand. So a little bit unfortunate, but good first goal. And then in the second one, we had a 38th minute. We had a cross back post for an easy header for Haps, the left back of Venezia, to make this one a draw. And then early in the second, there was a great low-driven pass across the face of the box to the middle of the box to, I can't even pronounce his name, Kernijoj.
Yeah, I'm not gonna help you with that one. That's too many consonants in a row
that's
for
an
me.
absolute beast. I think that
Yeah,
I don't even know what nationality. Maybe it's
he's
Croatian. I don't
Slovenian.
know. Slovenian. Okay,
Yeah.
that's above my pay grade. But he rifled it one time into the top corner. Really, really great match overall. I'm not sure if you're able to see the whole thing, but what were some of your takeaways from this one?
This was one of the matches I was able to catch. I missed Torino's opening goal. I think I started watching around the 25th minute.
Mm-hmm.
But this, props to Venezia. They literally don't stop fighting, and they're going to continue having to do so with the relegation scrap that they're in. But props to them. And I think more to the other side, this is just a Torino side that just feels like it's one or two pieces short of just being really good. It seems like the core of the team, the ideas, the mentality that they need to succeed is all there. It's just they have one or two mental lapses, it feels, per match. And then there's I think their finishing is a little suspect still without Bellotti on really good form for them. They struggle a little up front, it seems, with goals, and then they get stricken in examples like this. It happened against Atalanta at the beginning of the year. They dominated that game, and 92nd minute they just let one pass, and just a momentary lapse of concentration. But it's a lot for them to.
Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was just going to say this team seems like it's pretty well built. Like they have players such as, like you said, Bellotti, but he's not playing. You have Brecalo, who scored. You have Sanabria. You have Pobega. You have Bremer at the back. You have an okay goalie in Milinkovic-Savic's brother who plays. And then you also have Sengo at the right back position. So you have pieces there. It's just they need to keep building on that with now a great manager in Juric. So, I think they're just missing a few pieces, like you said. They're almost there. But let's talk about Venezia, one of my favorite teams from this season. Also, want to remind the people that we're on YouTube and Twitter, but if you're on Twitter, we can't see your comments. So if you guys would hop on YouTube, you could see your comments. We could, respond to them. We can get a great conversation going based off your questions. So hop on the YouTube, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you have, and give you guys some shout outs. But yeah, so Venezia, really interesting story. They've picked up some good players this season. Most notably, he didn't play in this match, but Romero from Manchester United, 35-year-old goalkeeper, solid keeper. You also have the likes of Gianluca Busio. You have Tanner Tessman. You have now Nani. You have Chekareke. He's a striker. He actually got a red card at the end of this match, so we won't be seeing him next match for him. And I think the match after, because I think it was a straight red. But he's also a good player. There's just a lot of pieces around this team that can really scare people. And I've told people it's not just the kids. Venezia actually have a decent side. They're not just all smoke and mirrors. What say you, Nick, about this team?
I agree, and especially you get the American influence there, which is,
Yeah,
I think they're probably the only squad that has two Americans. I would envision in Serie A right now.
yeah,
But they have pieces too, like you said. The guys you mentioned, Henri's he's a powerful man up front. He's a
yep,
pretty good target man who can offer a lot. And then we won't even try the Slovenian guy's name, Domin, whatever you want to call it. But he's got a wicked left foot. And against Atalanta in the Copa, he
Hey, we got Dan in here. The man.
yeah. He and the kids do help too. Really
Yep.
really nice kids. But he had a blistering mid-air volley against Atalanta that was called off for probably a bogus offsides call. So it feels, I don't know, with them, they're obviously short of, like we say with Torino, they need maybe one more piece to pull it all together. I think Venezia probably needs a little more, and
Yeah.
I think they struggle a little. I think with just dominating their will on the match. Can't press as hard as some other teams, probably just due to the quality they have on the pitch, and
Yeah.
they can get dominated a little bit in the press sometimes too, just because they don't have that elite ball handler in the middle to kind of diffuse the press. But if they stay up like Spezia this year, like Spezia from last year, staying up this year, and they can build upon another year in Serie A and getting that money that they need to invest into the club smartly, like I
Yeah.
would not be surprised to see them stay around, because unlike other teams that might make it up, they won't sit back and just try to park the bus on you. Like
Yeah.
even if they're going to lose 4 or 5-0, they'll try to play their
Yeah.
game still. And it worked against Torino. Like they could have sat back and just absorbed pressure from Torino, and they didn't. And they got 2 goals on counterattacks, granted, and then it worked out for them.
Yeah, that's a great point. And my usual co-host Lou in the comments. Took me a second to find the YouTube. Yeah, it's giving some people some issues. That's why some of the viewers have had trouble converting from Twitch over to YouTube. But like you mentioned before, he's also in J Medical, so he's not co-hosting today. But hopefully he'll be back real soon. But yeah, so Venezia, I think you make a good point. If they stay another season, and I think they will. People thought I was crazy when I said they could avoid relegation this season, and I think they will. I think they'll stay out of it. I think they'll maybe not like I was hoping it'd be a little bit more of a larger margin, not by a ton, but maybe a few games. But it looks like it might be tighter than that. You give those younger guys like Tessman, Busio, another season with this team. Let these players gel, and then not even to mention Caldara. If he can stay healthy next year, he's not a bad
That's
defender.
right.
He's decent. He can get the job done. And then with these owners that seem like they're a little bit more willing to spend, you can add to that. You can add maybe some more, pieces here and there. Maybe you steal a player from Cagliari. Maybe you steal a player from maybe the top of Serie B. Maybe you steal a player from, say, I don't know, say some other players from like Empoli or Spezia, teams like that, and you build quality. This team could be around for a while. And then also they're a cult favorite for a lot of Serie A fans because of the kids, myself included. Absolutely beautiful kids, and if they can keep that up, I think they can draw in a lot of revenue from that. And you got Dan in here saying, Caldara shall return. Die Matea. Yeah, he had some unlucky he's had an unlucky career so far. But the talent he's a good talent. He's a decent player. He definitely do the job. But yeah, that's all I have to say about Venezia. I think Venezia, I really hope they stay up mostly because I want people I want to prove people that I was right and I wasn't crazy to have faith in Venezia, and it wasn't just a love for the kids. But so going off of
And
that,
and and their coach, is it Zanetti? I think is their coach. If
it
I'm
is Zanetti,
apologies
yes.
if I, he's a he's a good coach. I think too. It looks like he has a plan, um, and he wants people
Hmm.
who can buy into that plan. And it doesn't really matter who the player is, as long as it fits his plan, he'll go out and do it. And
That's
they
true.
have a pretty international squad as well. So I wouldn't even be surprised to see them make some astute signing from, who knows, like the Danish league or something like that off the top. Like that's
That's
definitely
a
not out of the
great
realm of possibility.
That's a great point. I could see them poaching players again from MLS. I could see them poaching
Yep.
players from Danish league, maybe Belgian league. Just leagues that are a little bit more, they're less talked about. Maybe second division Germany. Maybe you get a gem in France. I mean, all it takes is and that not even to mention they just poached a kid from Bayern Munich, Cousins. I think it was Cuisance or Cousins. They
You
pulled
gotta get your
him.
French accent again, right? Get your French accent
I,
out.
Yeah, exactly. I got to pull that out of my pocket. But yeah, I forget his last name, how to pronounce it. One of those French
Cuisance,
pronunciations,
maybe.
cuissons or something like that. But he he's an enigma because I don't know much about him. But when you have the cachet of coming from Bayern Munich, obviously that's gonna pull some attention. He's only 20 years old, young talent. It kind of puts a red flag in your head, though. Why did Bayern Munich get rid of what seems like a young and talented player? So
Hmm.
we'll see. Maybe he sprouts up and becomes a really good player, and then maybe they sell him for a lot, and then they could reinvest in the team. Maybe something like that happens. So you never
Yeah.
really know. And then going off of that real quickly, we've seen a trend. We've talked about this on the show. There's a trend of Serie A teams, lower to mid-table Serie A teams, now pushing a little bit more than they used to. The mentality has shifted. Instead of staying back, sitting back and waiting to concede, they're pushing and they're trying to score the first goal, and they're trying to attack teams like Juventus, Inter, Napoli, Atalanta, and so forth. Um, are you seeing this trend all over the place too?
I think so, especially the matches I've watched where they play Atalanta. You can even tell that's 100% true, Dan. Salernitana sticks out in my mind
Yeah,
as I think they have adjusted their style since September, October, but they they can pester opponents. They gave Juventus a hard game not even that many months ago back,
yeah.
and I think they were a crossbar or a post shot away from tying it up pretty late in the match, and they gave Atalanta a headache early in the year, and we were lucky to escape with a 1-0 victory. And it feels like that. Like Venezia is doing the same thing. Salernitana is doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Empoli is not scared to get up and run the score up.
Spezia as well. You have Thiago
Spezia,
Motta. He's really pushing those
yeah,
players. There's a lot of teams. It's unfortunate because you're still seeing teams like Genoa who just don't. They're not getting it. It's just not clicking for them specifically. Same with
they're just
Cagliari.
like pure scrap survival mode. Some like the Genoa Cagliari at this point,
Yeah.
like the teams that more or less are kind of fixtures in the league for the last 10, 12 years.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's tough because those were teams that a lot of the bigger teams, quite frankly, rely on to send their youth prospects to develop. So now they have to build relationships with these other teams like Spezia, who just came up, Venezia, and they have to build these new relationships potentially with them to try to send their players to those teams instead, because there's a potential that Genoa and Cagliari won't be in the league at the end of the season. But the next game that we got to talk about, Napoli Inter 1-1 draw. This was a really back and forth match, but it seemed like Napoli were they were pushing the agenda more. It seemed like they were creating a little bit more chances, creating more opportunities. They just looked a little bit more with it this match, but still ended up with a 1-1 draw. A little bit of an overview of this one. You had a penalty in the 5th minute. It was I think Skriniar hitting the back of Osimhen's leg,
It was
and that
DeVry, wasn't it? Was it DeVry or
was it DeVry?
Skriniar?
I could be mistaken. It was
I
one
think,
of the guys,
yeah,
really
one of the
tall defenders.
brutish center
Yeah,
backs that they have.
exactly. So yeah, so you thank you for correcting me. It was DeVry, and then Insigne ended up converting that one with a great penalty, great well taken penalty, and then a lot of opportunities from Napoli early. That's what I noticed in this match, and then Politano coming off early in this one, being subbed off for Elmas. Um, and the second goal was actually a really unfortunate one. Bounced off, I think it was Di Lorenzo's leg, and went right to Dzeko, and he just
Hmm.
smashed it home. Almost missed it. It looked like he was going to miss the shot. He just put so much juice on it, but that ended it early to make it a 1-1 draw. Um, I don't have a ton of takeaways. Just that it just seemed like Napoli were going for it, just weren't able to finish their opportunities. But for the title race, Inter slipping up a little bit, and
Yeah.
Napoli kind of, maybe pressing the issue, trying to get into top three, or not top three, trying to get the Scudetto. What was your takeaway from this match?
I think definitely the big winner was obviously Milan in this one. Their two closest rivals draw out, only gain 1 point. I caught this one late, and the weird thing I noticed is when I started watching around like the 75th minute or so, both teams just seemed content playing for that draw. There wasn't a whole lot of action from
Mhm.
either side, trying to force the issue to go ahead and get a second goal, and we're content with a point rather than going home with 0 points at the end of the match. It just felt like a stalemate at the end, and maybe it was fatigue, exhaustion, what have it. But the game, from what I heard and what you discussed, was pretty high octane, at least in the first half, and going through the second half, and just kind of petered out at the end. And
Yeah.
both squads kind of say, let's cut our losses and go home. Maybe with especially for Inter, they have Champions League coming up.
Yep.
No, they're not playing. Are they playing tomorrow? Are they playing Wednesday?
Um,
Maybe.
I think they are. I think they're playing. Let me double check it right now. I have it.
Okay.
My app. So it looks like they are. We got Champions League pulled up. They are playing tomorrow. Yes.
Okay. So
So
maybe
maybe they
that's
were saving their energy
yeah.
and
And
saving
then
some of the
Napoli the
players.
same. They play Thursday against Barca, right? And then maybe at the end it's like one eye in the midweek fixtures and to just get out unscathed at that point. But
Yeah.
Inter's been scuffling a little now ever since they drew Atalanta. They've lost to Milan. They've now drew Napoli. So they've kind of been on a scuffle the last couple matches when everyone kind of declared that it was Inter's trophy to lose when we were going into the Christmas New Year's season,
Hmm.
and geez, it's wide open again, right? Like I wouldn't throw Atalanta in with a chance, but there's three teams I think, and even Juve if they get hot that are realistically fighting for it, and all that happened in
Yeah.
3 weeks. It's crazy what can happen in 3 weeks, and you can't declare anything this early. It feels like still.
Yeah, and that's a really good segue because you mentioned Juve and Atalanta. But first, I want to mention that you're right. The match kind of got stale as the match continued. But that's kind of the last point I want to make on that. But Juve and Atalanta, very interesting match that we had. And you made a point about the Scudetto. I think to be still in the Scudetto race, one of these two teams needed to win this match to at least put themselves still in the hunt. I think there's still a slim chance for Juve to make a Scudetto. Well, maybe not a slim chance, but I think there's still some sort of a chance that they can make a late Scudetto run. But I think if they really
Mhm.
wanted to mount a significant effort towards the Scudetto, they needed to win this match, Juve. This was a must-win to at least, if they wanted to really solidly put their name out there, like, okay, we're contenders, they needed to win this match. And they did. They drew this one. So without further ado, let me get into this one. Um, Very back and forth. I think the first 20, 25 minutes, Juve pressed the issue. They looked better. They looked confident. They were attacking. And then it was all Atalanta the rest of the first half. They started gaining momentum. They started building. And then it started being Atalanta's half. So it was kind of a tale of two halves
Mhm.
for Juve and Atalanta. It really, most of the action did not come till the second half. Also, a lot of yellow cards in this one. 5 yellow cards were given out. A lot of chippiness. A
Maybe
lot
some
of
red cards that should have been given out, but we'll
yeah.
save that. I'm just
I mean, there was
well,
controversy there.
yeah.
I did a lot of rewatching of that.
Hmm.
I can see why people were upset at first, but one, it looked like he slipped. Two, he got right back and kept running. And three, he didn't complain or anything to the ref.
Hmm.
Like he didn't say anything about getting touched. So I mean, I'm biased, but I think that he didn't deserve a second yellow. I think Vlahovic didn't deserve the second yellow. Um,
Yeah,
Even the
it
first,
doesn't bother me. I just like fanning the flames sometimes. So
no problem with that. I'm totally cool with that. But yeah, the first yellow, even the first yellow for me, I get it. He was mouthing off, so I kind of understand it. But it just, did you notice there was a lot of physical play with Juve strikers from Atalanta? Like I saw a lot of clipping of the heels of Morata and a lot of like grabbing a lot of physicality on Vlahovic. But the ref let it play. He let a lot play in this match. What was your
hmm
thoughts on that?
yeah, it was a pretty. It was physical, I think, for um, for what you can notice sometimes. But I think that happens too more often. Probably Vlahovic is a big guy. He's strong.
Yeah.
Demeral's a big guy. He's strong. So I think when you have matchups like that, I think the ref just from his conscious bias of what he's seeing on the field is like, oh, two guys duking it out. This is we're gonna let him see what happens. We're gonna see what happens.
We get down here saying it bothers me. Dives, then realizes he's on a yellow and he gets up. Smart boy. Take it as you will. We'll be happy that he didn't get a red or a second yellow on that one. But for me, it was more of like Morata because obviously he's not like the physical presence that Vlahovic is. He was getting clipped a lot, and he was asking to get those calls. I think I noticed 3 or 4 times, and he just wasn't getting anything. Like they were calling fouls, but there's no yellows being given out. From your perspective, how many, I guess, brash challenges or how many like clear fouls do you think it takes before a ref says, okay, now I need to address this. I need to hand out a yellow?
I don't know. That's a good question. I'm all for I'm all for reasonable physicality as long as you're not going in trying to take somebody's ankles out. Especially, I guess it all depends on the flow of the game. If you're really not stopping like a breakaway chance, I think the only one that really bothered me was Coop Miners pulled, I want to say Danilo back. I forget who it was in the first half, who was kind of skirting through the middle of the pitch.
That one I thought was a clear yellow.
Yeah, that's the only one that I'm like, probably should have given him a yellow card. But as long as, like I said, it doesn't look vicious and you're not stopping like a clear goal scoring chance and you're not going in with stepping on somebody. So I'm really kind of fine to let it play.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Personally, because obviously I have some level of bias because I am a Juve fan, but I try to be a little bit non-biased. But when I saw the match in the moment, I was like, oh, they have to give a yellow at some point for all these clips on Morata. The Danilo one wasn't called, but I think overall the ref set a precedent early on that he was going to let a lot play out. He was going to let it be a physical match. Did he miss a call or two? Yeah. But I think you also, as a player and as a coach, you need to adjust to these things. You need to tell the players, okay, the ref's not giving you these. You have to find a way to be more creative to try to draw a little bit more of a flagrant foul. Make it more obvious that you got fouled. Don't let it kind of, go by. And I'm assuming there were probably talks at halftime from Dybala and Bonucci and whatnot, asking the ref, what's going on in terms of the precedent. Why are these things being given and not given? And then Dan coming in, the reason Atalanta center backs get away with it is because they push the defenders so high up the pitch with their pressure. That it's not in a dangerous area. That's a fair point too. I can see that. That's a very good counter argument. But I think overall I wasn't really upset with the refs management of the game because I will say, and you'll probably agree with me, that potential handball in the lit. When I first saw it, there was no doubt in my mind that I thought that was a handball on Mateus de Ligt. And I think Juve definitely got lucky and got away with one. When I saw some slow-mos, it looked like it hit like the armpit area, but it really comes down to where does the arm end and where does the body begin? Because in real time, it looked like a handball. But Nick, give me some of your thoughts on that call in real time.
I remember even when I was watching it on live, I'm like, oh, handball, like kind of like throwing it out in the air rhetorically. And I was actually kind of surprised on second look that it was honestly closer to a handball than originally I thought. And it's just that it's the placement of that arm. Like he has it out like he's like going for a kung fu move or something out there, like he's defending his body. Like, and with that, like it's too far out. I feel like it gives you less room for error. I feel like if you have it closed and tucked in, then you give the ref more onus to not call it because you're doing your utmost to get your hands in as close to your body. But when you're that far out, which he didn't need to be either, like his hand is literally in front of his body. So
he was doing a slide and then his arm was kind of floating away from his body on the slide.
Yeah. So I was a little disappointing not to see even a VAR check or like a pause in the match for the ref to get word from the VAR booth if it was something worth looking at. It was business as usual.
Yeah,
and I think like you said, it was tough. It's bang bang, and you can get down to whatever grain of pixel you want.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, it's a judgment call, and it just the way that went, it's tough to do. Like a challenge in football, like whatever the ref's decision is on the field, you kind of err towards the side of caution on what the ref
Yeah.
originally called.
What bothers me is there's been too much, I feel like, calls being up for interpretation where you have VAR in place for a reason to check back
Mhm.
on these calls where it's, up in the air and a lot of people thought they saw him. I'm actually very surprised. I think it's because it was Juve Atalanta, not Juve Inter, Juve Napoli, that there wasn't as much of a, no offense to Atalanta, but just like the more, fan bases that tend to have outcries when Juventus don't, when they get a call for them. Um, but I'm really surprised there wasn't more of an outroar, as well as, that's what VAR is in place for. You put VAR in place so that you can get the calls right. And
Yep.
in this case, it didn't look like they got the call right. It looked like that Juve definitely got away with one.
And the one honestly that shocks me even more than that is it happened a little earlier with Chesney coming out for the to to stop. All right, I'll give you my rationale because Coop
Okay.
Miners gets to the ball first. Contact is made between the two. I wouldn't think anything of it, except for the week before, Juan Musso and Pereiro from Cagliari are in
Yep.
almost an identical situation, and and red card goes to Juan Musso. Juan Musso
Yeah.
actually, in a weird way, touches the ball in a way, kind of makes a tackle with his back leg as he's going to dive.
Uh huh.
They give a red card without even looking at anything. And if we're gonna
Yeah.
compare apples to apples, the fact that Chesney didn't, there wasn't even a foul, there wasn't even any sort of card, let alone red or yellow, and it just went out for a goal kick, and
Well,
like
so let me give you
that's what
Let me give you
confuses
the
me more.
Juve side of this. I get from so especially because the week before you had that call against you, so I can definitely see where you're coming from on that. For me, from the Juve perspective, and this is why it's so great that we have a Juve and Atalanta fan because we have different views on this. When I saw the replay, he looked like he was going like this. The ball had went right by him, so it didn't look like there should have been a yellow for him, inadvertently touching the ball outside the box. That was one. And second, I forget who was coming up on him, but somebody karate kicked him like right in the nuts. Like somebody was kicking him right in the stomach. So I thought it was gonna be the other way. I thought somebody in Atalanta would get a card. But it was a wild. I mean, Chesney, I don't know what the hell he was doing, man. Like he had no
Yeah,
right running 35 yards out, going on an adventure outside the box. It's just inexcusable. It was a great ball over the top from Atalanta. It just didn't hit his target. I mean, it worked out for Juve, but it didn't need to happen. It didn't need to. Dan saying, can't wait to hear the Juve side. We all have our angles, Dan. As much as I try to be unbiased, I think that one was a close call for sure, but I think the no call was right on that one.
okay, we'll agree to disagree, and then leave it at that. When Coop Miners beat him to the
Exactly.
ball, I'm like, okay, this has to be something, but
Yeah, exactly. And
whatever.
then we got
Yeah,
Dan saying Coop Miner's got three balls, the ball and
two of
the
that.
two of Tex. Yes, exactly. And then Louis said Tech kamikaze there. Yeah, he's just trying to blow up the game. Now let's get to the interesting stuff. The two goals,
Hmm.
76th minute, and this is also to the point that I like that he hasn't made a substitution yet in the 76th minute.
Yep.
I'm just beside myself and the substitute for Atalanta, Malinovsky, takes the free kick, hits it where it looks like it's going one way, and then starts bending the other way. Absolutely phenomenal strike, amazing technique. And with the wall the way it was, Chesney had a split second find the ball and just dove. And it was basically a courtesy dive at that point because it was going
Hmm.
essentially top left corner. Beautiful finish. People were in uproars about Tech, saying that he should have saved that. I'm in disagreement with that. I think you have to give credit to the the goal taker there, free kick taker, and Malinowski. What say you, Nick? What do you think about people saying that it was on Tech?
That would be tough. That's real harsh. I think. Like, first of all, that for Malinowski, that's a goal of the year for Atalanta so far, 100%. If if you know on CBS for Paramount Plus, they do the top 5 goals every week. If that's not the goal of the week this week, I think I'm going to cancel my subscription. I don't know what can top that this week, but just a unbelievable kick and unbelievable goal.
And then you got Dan. Look at Dan Malboomski, and the only thing better than that was the shot of Bonucci's face when it went in. That's fair.
But that'd be real harsh on Szczesny if you're gonna to bash him for not saving that. Just you could see it. You could see on the live screen how basically it's dipping like topspin, like he's kicking a curveball. I imagine that's starting out above the crossbar and basically just dips right down once it gets inside the 18-yard box. And like you said, the wall's in front of him. He has a bad view, and that ball's coming up on you. What, 110, 120 kilometers an hour? Probably. That's you don't have a lot of time to react to something like that coming so fast. So
yeah, and like for me, all the people saying that Wojciech Szczesny should have made that save have not played the game of soccer, in my opinion. Because like I've seen games in real time. And I've never seen Malinowski shoot a ball in real time, but I'm assuming he can. The way he hit that, it looked like a rocket. So seeing shots in real time is very different than seeing them on TV. And I assume that the shot was absolutely smashed if Szczesny wasn't able to get to it in time, because he's a good goalie usually on free kicks. He's usually able to hit the mark because he's 6'5". He's a tall guy too. He can cover a lot of ground. So I couldn't believe when people said that. But great goal, phenomenal finish. Unfortunate. This is when I was doing a watch along for all Juve cast, I was getting really nervous. I'm like, I said on the stream, I said, "Oh, we got this. We'll score 2 goals. We'll bring it back." I was being very optimistic, but in my head, I'm like, "Oh, we might lose this." But especially because Allegri hadn't made any substitutions, and then he finally decides after that goal. It seemed like he was waiting for Juve to score to put in subs, and then when Atalanta scored, he said, "Okay, I need to throw guys in there." So he threw Juan Cuadrado in there. He threw him in there. He moved Danilo inside, pinched him inside, took out Bonucci. Then he put Moise Kean in as like a winger, changed the formation to a 4-2-3-1. And then it just seemed like Juve was trying to press, was trying to get something. And they were getting successful at it. They were having a bunch of corners. They were getting it on goal. Nothing was going in. Then at the last second, the guy who I wanted pulled, Danilo, because he had a yellow card. I thought they should have taken him off. And rightfully so. Usually when you have a player get a yellow card early, you want to take him off. But I'm happy they didn't, because in the 90-plus minute, he hits the game drawing finish off a corner from Dybala. He crosses it in. Danilo heads it across goal to the other side of the goal, and it just absolute, great finish. And then the game ends 1-1 draw. So yeah, overall, I don't think it's the worst result for the both teams, because they're kind of in the same place that they were a week ago. Atalanta's in 5th, Juve's in 4th. It's good. I think it's relatively good for both teams because they still got a point out of it. What's your thoughts on this one?
The way it ended is heartbreaking, unfortunately, for us, because there's 90 seconds left, and then to concede a goal like that, you're going to be disappointed. But you take a step back from an Atalanta perspective, and you can't not be happy with earning points in this match. Just going into the match, we talked on the Atalanta pod last week. We both thought Juve was going to win pretty handily, and with the momentum you guys had, the lack of momentum Atalanta has had, losing 2 straight matches, drawing the 2 previous matches before it, albeit against good opponents, being just kind of stopping the slide before it had a chance to start, I think was really key. And being able to do that with the draw in this one hopefully gives us enough momentum to get off on the right foot, I think, going forward. And we learned a lot in this match from an Atalanta perspective too, with Zapata out now. Jeremy Boga was a firecracker. Him and 10 Coop Miners Coop Miners in a more advanced role, they were linking up like I haven't seen anybody at Atalanta link up, because oftentimes it's a lot of individual play from a specific playmaker spurring things on, and the way they were connecting was a sight to behold and really encouraging. So even beyond the result, there's just a lot of encouraging things to look forward to for the next 3 months for Atalanta.
Yeah, 100%. And this is going to be a really interesting Scudetto race. But I wanted to actually do something a little bit different. We didn't prepare for this, but I
Okay,
thought we got a good amount of time, so let's throw something in there. I want to highlight two teams. There was a Sassuolo Roma match. I'm not sure if you watched that one. That was a
I did.
crazy
Yeah.
match.
Hmm.
So I guess
Yeah.
we could talk about that one in a sec. But also Verona smashing Udinese for nothing. I want to do a quick highlight on Verona.
Hmm.
What have you thought of them this season? Because they won 4-0, and they're in the top 10 right now. They're number 9 in the table.
I I really like this Verona team. I'm just pulling out. I forget. You might
Their
have to help
coach
me.
now is actually who the backup was. The assistant coach was De Pirlo at Juve, Tudor.
Igor Tudor. I was gonna say like the system that I thought going into this year, Verona's losing Ivan Juric. Um, I thought they were gonna be in a relegation scrap. Personally, they lose
Yeah, so did
Zaccagni.
I. I thought they were getting dropped down.
Yep, they lose Matteo Lavata. They lose Zaccagni. Seemingly, they're two of their better players from last year, and it's like okay, they're going to be fighting for 16th, 17th place, and they did a straight up 180. And the way they do
Yeah.
it, I really appreciate too. It's not pretty. They will dog you and just press you up front. Giovanni Simeone for all the goals that he scored this year and some pretty nice ones at that. The engine he has up front and just forcing teams to not play their match. I think is what it propels them and allows them to score so many goals. They give up a lot of goals too because it is kind of a aggressive, high octane system, but they make up for it with all the turnovers they're able to force in the attack in the opponent's defensive third. And I was looking at stats a couple weeks ago. It's a little old, but I think they had like 5 or 6 players in the top 15 um, of tackles made and tackles won in the opponent's defensive third. It's like just obscene numbers, and I just really appreciate the way they've all taken this system to heart and are
Mhm.
playing great football as a result. And like you said, they're top 10. They probably will finish top 10 the way they're playing this year. They won't peter out like they did at the end of this year, and they have a really good squad. I wouldn't be surprised even if they made a push for that 7th spot and got Conference League potentially if they keep it
Yeah,
up.
it would be really, really. I don't think they'll go that far, but I mean, they've had a really good season. Tudor's done amazing with them, and just if you look at as a whole, Verona actually don't have a bad team. They have Barak as a striker. They have Giovanni Simeone. They have um, a guy named Tameze in the
Uh,
middle. They have
old
like good.
Atalantino, yeah,
Yeah, they have all these
yeah.
players. Just
And
they don't
Caprari
have
too. I
the
can't even. We have to talk about him too. He's
who else?
Gianluca Caprari is
Oh, Caprari. Yeah, he's been
yeah.
playing
Hmm.
phenomenal this year.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just so I mean, there's so many players like you can name on this team that they're not superstars, but they do their job and they do it well. So you add all of this together, you're getting a really good mix of players. And you're getting also the perfect storm because Tudor seems like he's found the right buttons to click for this team to make them play properly, to have them play well together. So it's really, really been impressive. And they absolutely when I watched Verona Udinese. Udinese looked lost. They got absolutely smashed by Verona. Seemed like every second Verona was scoring. Um, but they have to be careful though because, well, it's a good and bad thing because they could lose some players this mercato
Yeah.
coming up in the summer because teams might want to poach some of these players from them. You never know.
Definitely.
Maybe Barak might go. Simeone may go. Caprari.
Yep.
Um,
Ivan Illich, definitely. They have a lot of guys that will
Ivan
be
Illich, that's a
desirable for a
great
lot of
that's a
other
great name.
players.
He's 20 years old. He's
Yep.
phenomenal. Like they just have such a plethora of talent. It's really really impressive. Um, but yeah, let's get to the Sassuolo Roma match. Wasn't able to watch too much of this one, but the goal scores in this match they came aplenty. They came aplenty. So give me some of your thoughts on this one. Initially, we had Smalling scoring with an own goal. Actually, no, I saw some of this match. I saw Traore's goal,
Yep.
which
Real
we'll
nice
get to
goal.
him
Yeah.
later.
Hmm.
And then you had Abraham and Cristante scoring the other on Roma's team. What were some of your takeaways from this one?
It's Roma. When you talk about Roma, unfortunately, Jose Mourinho's he's tiresome. I think to me, but you can't not talk about him when you're talking about Roma, and it feels. I don't know if it's some sort of
Mm-hmm.
Roma fans will say, no, Nick, you're completely off base with all you're saying, but it just feels like there's just too much of a devoid and a gap between his expectations, his attitude, and the players' expectations and attitude. And it just feels like a tale of, I don't know, like it was the same thing last year with them. They can beat all the people in top 8 and below, or eighth spot and below, but then they play teams higher up, and then they kind of lose their attitude a little bit, whatnot. But it just feels like a team that's kind of in that same mode right now, and they don't have what they need almost to just kind of propel themselves up and from that steady Europa League finishing team to competing for Champions League year in and year out. I don't know what
Roma
it is,
one season away? Are Roma one season away from getting it together, at least to making a legit top 6 run?
Top 4 run, or
I mean,
I think
we don't even know if they're gonna make top 6 this year, so yeah. I'm gonna go with the top 6 run.
I think it's tough. I think it's weird because you look at their squad, their top 11 is like, yeah, no doubt this team should be.
So are you saying Fiorentina drops out of top 6 this season?
I think Roma's got a better squad.
Really? Okay. Yeah, Lex is not going to be happy
without Vlahovic now. I think I don't know if they have who knows with Cabral from Basel if he's going to be a sufficient replacement at striker, but they have the pieces. I think Roma. They just need if it's a tactic, if it's a philosophy that fits the style for the players that they have. I'm not sure, but
yeah, I think
they're a tough team to crack.
It's really tough. I think Mourinho at least gets a couple seasons, and you got Lex in here saying respect Italiano. She's a big Italiano fan.
I respect the hell out of him. He's done a lot with Fiorentina this year for sure. But
I think they like sneak into top 6, and I think neither of the teams from Rome actually make top 6, which is huge. Wow. I think both of them drop out. I don't think Lazio make conference. I think Roma get into the Conference League. And I think Conference League is Conference League 6th or 7th.
It depends. If it's technically 6, but whoever wins a Coppa Italia tends to be a team that's already in the top 6, so it usually goes to the 7th place team.
Got you.
Right? Yeah,
that's what. Yeah. So I think Lazio get. I don't think they get Conference League. I think Roma get Conference League. I think Atalanta and Fiorentina sneak into the top 6. That's what I think. Mm-hmm. And I want to mention this comment. This is a Yeti mug, one of the best mugs you can have.
I have the blue one. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's a great one. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. Like, I got like 5 different models of this. Yeti, please sponsor us, please. We would love to. I drink tea every show. It's like the perfect match made in heaven. I'd be drinking espresso, but if I was, I'd be off the walls all night. And then we got my boy Ant. We did the watch along this week, and he said again with the Italiano. Everybody loves Italiano. Okay. I know this sounds crazy. When Allegri has finished his 3 to 4 years stabilizing Juventus and getting them to a really good position, I think Italiano takes over this team. I truly believe that. I think it's De Zerbi or Italiano at some point take over this team for the future, because I think Allegri is that bridge to the next guy. What do you think on that, Nick?
That's interesting. De Zerbi, you already had bad luck with the Brescia-born guy, so you don't want De Zerbi, I think. Him and Pirlo, both from Brescia, but I think that's interesting. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. Italiano's a good pick. You don't think Tudor would come back if he's had old links with?
Well, if Tudor really overperforms, like he's done well with Verona, if he gets another job in the near future, like say he spends another year or 2 at Verona and gets them higher, or if he goes to another team and does the same thing or gets them higher, I think that's when we get into that conversation about Tudor. But I think right now, I think Juve quietly have Italiano on their radar. Mm-hmm. We got Lex saying she was a Spezia fan last year, saying Yeti is goated. Yeah, we all know Yeti is goated. It's awesome. And then she's weighing in on this, saying Italiano or Pirlo back. So the thing is, I need to see Pirlo prove himself at another club. Like, I think he did very good for what he had at Juventus. He basically had Ronaldo and then everybody else on the team. At least that's how it seemed at some points this season. But I think Italiano is this main guy that Juve have been very quiet about. I don't think You haven't heard about it a lot in the media, but I do think that they're quietly thinking of getting him from Fiorentina, because I don't know how long his contract is, but I think it would be perfect because Italiano. Juventus is in Italy. You see the name. No, I'm just trying to make a joke. That was a bad joke, but I think Allegri. Do you agree that Allegri is kind of the stabilizer to stabilize Juve since they've been firing managers every single year for the last 4 years?
Yeah, I would imagine it's definitely, you can't see it as a long-term solution, right? Like,
Yeah, I think three,
I
4 years is the max.
yeah, maybe even that's a little long. Maybe three seems. I think that's a good over/under probably right now.
Yeah,
And yeah, and honestly, I'd be happy to see them do that rather than with the old. It seems like European football, they just recycle through the same big names over and over again, and to see Juventus actually go with an up and coming coach is a good look
if they
for
get
them and
if
for the league. Definitely.
100%, if Fiorentina make top six this season, and if they stay in top six the season after that, I think if they continuously see him getting them top six,
Hmm.
or at least in those competitive spots, I think that Juve might even force their hands more because if he keeps performing with Fiorentina with what they have, then they might say, oh, other places from other clubs from around the world are going to want to poach this guy. We have to
Yeah.
get him while he's in our backyard before he wants to go to a bigger club, say in France, in Germany, in another league. I think
Yeah.
Italiano is an Italian man, through and through. I think he wants to be in this league for a long time. And then we got Lex saying, "Hey to you, Nick. Joined late. Nice to have you on the show."
Thank you.
Nick's a great guy. He had me on the show on his show last week, and now I got him on the show. Lex also saying Italiano will help if Pistolero or will help Il Pistolero cook, which she's talking about Piontek.
Don't tech.
I
If he
think
can
he
if he can
honestly.
be a miracle worker with him, then you give him the Juventus job, right? But
And Lex she's just doing a great job at helping me segue to our next section. This is the favorite part of the show of everybody, including myself. This is my brainchild, buy or sell, my favorite part of the show. So the first player we actually are going to put on this list is Piontek from Fiorentina. Based on his performances so far, would you buy or sell him?
sell.
Really?
I would sell. Yeah. I
You know what? I'm gonna go with Lex. I think Italiano is gonna help him cook. I think
Okay.
I'm gonna buy him. I think I'm gonna buy Piontek. For once in my life, I'm gonna buy Piontek. Before I hated him, now give him a shot. Why not? I'm gonna buy him.
give him a
Next one.
shot, but he has big shoes to fill in Fiorentina. But
Oh, of course, no doubt. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of pressure, but I think Italiano is gonna, work some magic. Help him get comfortable, and I think he's gonna help him cook. So I'm really excited actually for him, and then also for Cabral because Cabral has been talked about a lot. So we'll see how they cook. Not to mention they have great forwards in Nico Gonzalez, and then they have Callejon, who's past his prime but can still do the job every now and then. And then
yeah,
you also have
Sotil.
Sotil.
Yep.
Sotil is very good
Hmm.
as well. Next player, your boy, Martin Dirun. Buy
Yeah,
or sell.
I like this one, and um, in the situation, I think you buy him still. I don't think you buy him as a starting 11 fixture anymore, but he's definitely a guy you need on your team. Very versatile and um, puts a good shift in the midfield and can even play at center back still if you really need him.
I really like him as a player, and even on his social media, he's really really funny. He posts some funny stuff. He's just really a character, and I can get behind him. He's always also he's always shouting out people. He shouts out IFTV all the time, and they're wonderful people. We love their content. So it's really cool how he kind of connects with the Calcio community. He's not just to himself and does his business. He likes to be a positive role model. He likes to spread some positivity, and we always like that. And he's good talent on the field too. So for me, I would buy him as well. I think he's a solid player.
Player and the person right there, buying both.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
the thing is, that's the perfect combination. That's what a club always wants. They want a guy. You don't need to be a superstar as long as you're good and you do your job, as well as being a good role model for the team and for the club. That's a win-win.
Definitely.
Next one I got my boy on Juventus, Danilo. Buy or sell? Would you buy or sell him, Nick?
I would buy him. He gets a lot of unnecessary, or he had gotten a lot of unnecessary hate, and he's very dependable. You want a guy like that in your team, especially on the back line.
Yeah, 100%. Besides the yellow card over the weekend, he's very reliable. You can play him at a lot of positions. He can play center back. He can play right back. I think at times he's even played left back too. He gets a lot of hate just because the move that was involved with him. It involved Cancelo, who we
Hmm.
loved. I would have loved to keep him. I think we lost in that deal, but Danilo has turned out to be a really, really solid player for us. So I think it's worked out because we got a lot of money also in that deal. So I think if you look at it in hindsight, it wasn't as bad as people thought it was, just because you got a lot of money and you also had now who's been a very good player for Juventus. So I'd buy Danilo.
Yeah.
Next, we have Traore from Sassuolo. He's been cooking lately. Are you gonna buy or sell him? Do you think it's just a fluke?
I think he's a buy. He's shown sparks at Sassuolo in the past, and he's got good bloodlines with Amad Diallo on loan at Rangers, but the Man U boy now. So um, he's always impressive when I see him play. He just maybe needs a little better decision making sometimes in the final third, but he can get by somebody like Jeremy Boga for the most
Yeah,
part. So yeah,
he's he's still really young, still a lot of potential. I love him in FIFA. He's a great player in FIFA, and I love how you got that Atalanta thing there, putting Diallo in there. I like how you
right,
kind of slipped
right.
that in there. Yeah, he's a great
Gotta
player
do it
as
when we
well,
can.
Diallo.
Yep.
100%. Next player, Cristante for Roma. What do you think? Is he a buy or a sell for you?
This is a really tough one because, sorry, I'll go.
Oh, wait, address this first.
Ooh, that is a hot
Junior
take.
is better than Ahmad. Hot take. Yes or no, Nick? Is that
That's
a
I've.
what do you
It's
think?
weird because I've seen Junior play more than Ahmad probably because he hardly played for Atalanta. He's so young still.
Hmm.
I I'm fine with that. I think right now you definitely if you pick one to finish the year off, you take Junior. Maybe in 3 years it's different, but I think I have no problem with that take.
Based on what I've seen, I'd go Junior just because I've had limited experience seeing Ahmad Diallo. I've only seen him basically in highlights from when he's been transferred.
Yeah,
Um, so I'm gonna
yeah.
go Junior. So like we said before, Cristante, buy or sell?
This is a interesting one. I'm on my page. I'm writing. I did this whole tactical series, and then long story short, basically, I picked a starting 11 that I felt would fit this hypothetical team, and I had
Mhm.
Cristante at midfield in it. Um, I think he's a really nice hybrid between midfield and can interchange well with center backs as need be. And from that standpoint, I would buy him. I for some reason in Rome, I don't know. I would sell him in this situation in the current format he's in. But in the right system, he's definitely a buy for me. But sell in the current state of Serie A.
For me, I disagree. I just whenever I've seen him, I think when I look at him on the pitch, I'm like I don't know if people seeing him. I've seen a lot of overhype in this player, and I think it's almost not got to his head, but I think it's kind of the pressure's kind of built a lot on him, and it's built all these expectations. Like he's hit some really phenomenal bangers outside the box, like just like rockets, and I think that has also helped build into the hype. But overall, I haven't seen anything much that's impressed me because he's also been played at a ton of positions in Roma, so that's also maybe not helping him at all. But I don't really know what his true position is. I don't know if he's a cam because they put him at cam, they put him at center mid, they put him at CDM. I think they put him at center back once. Um,
Yeah, he
I
played
don't
center
know if
back a
he's.
lot last year. Yeah,
I think he's
he,
a
he
CDM. I think
he's
that's his best position. But for me, I just sell him.
yeah he's a jack of
Um,
all trades, master of none, and he just feels that like he doesn't know what his identity really is. Right now with Roma, maybe he needs a change of scenery to help see that through, or
maybe it's
better
Atalanta.
guidance.
Maybe that's the spot for him to go.
He's gonna go back home, which would be nice. Like he was an attacking midfielder at Atalanta when he was there like 3 or 4 years ago, but we could put him all over the pitch, and I wouldn't mind that move honestly. I think he would fit well in still with the formation Gasparini has.
Yeah, 100%. The last one, it's not a player. Venezia, buy or sell, Nick? Just
I'm
like
buying.
off their performances, do you buy them to stay up in Serie A?
Yeah, I'm buying them. I was looking at the stat 538 puts out their projected Serie A standings. Right now they have Venezia finishing 18th, 39% chance of going down. Them and Cagliari are tied on points right now. I think Venezia can overtake Cagliari, finish 17th, maybe even
If I'm
finish
a
in the
betting
mix. Yep.
man, If I'm a betting man, I take
I'm betting man.
Venezia.
Mhm.
I got them. Plus those damn kits, man, they get me every time.
Every time. Yep.
Um, I'm in love with Venezia, and I think they're like we said before, they're only going to build off that success that they've had. And I think they're going to become a mid-table fixture in Serie A. Like not like an Udinese, but a team that's going to like shift up and down the table
Hmm.
throughout the years. I think they'll become somewhat of a Palermo in Serie A, but I
Hmm.
hope they never get. I hope they never
Without
get
going
relegated like
bankrupt.
Palermo. I love
Yeah.
Palermo so much. Uh,
Hmm.
but that is just about it for our show. Thank you so much for everybody for watching. Just a reminder, if you guys can like and subscribe to the channel, it's always appreciated. Put a lot of work into the show. We get some really great guests. Want to keep on growing. Shout out to all UVCast for always being a great sponsor, as well as Striped Hearts Apparel. Go get some of that stuff. They got some really great new designs out too. Really, really sick like comic designs. I'm not sure if you saw them, Nick, but they look really cool. They're like comic book inspired. So sick.
Nice. We'll
Um,
have to go check it out.
but
I haven't seen it.
yeah, and I can't wait to get my order in because I can't wait to show it off. Thank you, Lex, for hopping on. We appreciate everybody's support. Thank you, everyone.
Yep.
You guys
Thanks,
have a great
guys.
night, and we'll see you on the next episode of Stoppage Time. See you
Ciao,
guys.
guys.